I know in my last podcast about the claimants for the last of Alex's funds, I said I was going to go through these claimants in order, except for saving the Satterfields for last. I was working on PMPED and John Parker, who were next in line, but it was so ick. I decided to skip to the Badger case. If you've been listening to me for a while, you know that I've always had such a soft spot in my heart for the Badger case and the Pinckney case. Anything involving children gets to me, and the Badger case involves 6. So this case is just too sad. There are too many heartbreaking turns, too many people along the way who failed this family. But with these claims, a lot of details that I hadn't already heard were uncovered, and I want to share some of that with you today. Alex's victims were not given voices. He kept settlements private so he could hide his thievery better. And even in all the reporting that we see, so little is said of the people he hurt. Creighton has given them voices in every opportunity he had, but I always feel that while Alex is now world famous, too little is known about the ones he hurt and how he was able to do it, the ones who helped him to do it. I won't reveal the names of Arthur's children, even though most of them are now grown, or show any pictures beyond what has been posted in public media, in case he prefers privacy. But I want to share this case with you and say that with so little money left from all of Alex's assets, this one, above all others who've staked their claims, in my opinion, is the most deserving. Arthur is currently represented by Mark the Tiger Tinsley. He has supplied exhibits and such a complete story, and I've paired that with federal transcripts, hearings, and documents that I already had to tell you a story that paints a picture of the deepest depravity that was ruling the Low Country for far too long. Let's get started. This is Legal Updates with Cassidy. My choice for the rest of Alex Murdaugh's funds, Arthur Badger. Welcome. Arthur Badger was my third victim story. Now that I've learned so much more through this claimant information, I feel like his story must be retold. I will cover a lot of it in this podcast, but I do intend to put it all together in an updated victim story later as well. His story began while he was traveling with his wife Donna, and as I've now learned, were 2 other passengers, Eva Marshall and Charles Haley Jr., when they were struck by a UPS truck that crossed into their lane. Creighton Waters and Mark Tinsley both spoke about this case during the sentencing hearing last month.
And ultimately, he had yet another huge recovery, and that involved the case of Arthur Badger, whose family was in a catastrophic accident, severely injured his children, killed his wife. And Mr. Murdaugh told him the case would only be worth a certain amount.
This being one of the early cases, it happened before the fake forge accounts were made. And as I mentioned in the first podcast about these claimants, Alex and Russell had borrowed from Hannah Plyler's settlement, and she was nearing the age of 18 when she would collect her money, so they had to hustle and pay back the money they had helped themselves to. But without fake forge, there were some necessary steps they had to follow to make it all work.
And during the course of this, and this was very common, Mr. Badger had to get money to pay loans, he had to pay his bills, and what we found in this particular case was that Mr. Murdaugh ultimately settled globally a lot of these claims and had the civil defense lawyers there allocate the money in a certain way so that he could ultimately hand a very large check to Mr. Badger, more in line with what he was expecting him to receive. But he structured so much of the money going into Arthur Badger's sort of part of the ledger that he was able to steal $1.325 million. That he was able to steal $1.3 $1.325 million.
Why is Alex smiling here? This is creepy as creepy gets. So two things are, one, Arthur was in debt. His life had been turned upside down.
The predatory acts that befell all of these people. The money that they were owed was owed because of blood, sweat, and tears. Hakeem Pinckney needed his money. The Badgers, who I represent, 6 children, 2, 3, 5, 8, 9, and 11, are left with a single father, and he stole everything. And so I stand up here to say,
imagine being left with 6 kids, 3 of which were 5 and under. The oldest, only 11. That's hard with 2 parents. Now imagine a father trying to manage that. A grieving father with grieving children. It's unfathomable. Imagine how lost he felt when he needed time to grieve his wife, but couldn't because those babies were crying. Too young to understand why their mommy was gone, I can't imagine the level of loss, grief, and sadness between those 7 people in that house. Imagine trying to keep a steady job in this situation. But watch this clip again.
are left with a single father, and he stole everything. And so I stand up here to say,
this really bothered me. Why is Alex speaking during this? Where's the guilt and shame that he speaks of having? What is he saying that's so important right then in that moment? This is the family that Alex and Russell saw fit to prey upon, to pay back their loans to Hannah Plyler, to family members, to credit cards, in spite of generational wealth and high salaries.
From that particular claim. And if you look at that first page, you'll see the tracing exhibit from the state grand jury and all the work that was done there. But you can see, for example, in one instance, he paid off a credit card balance that he had with this money over $150,000.
It wasn't a quick swipe of money. It was premeditated. It was planned. It was arranged. It was rearranged. It took place over a couple of years. It was devious. It was inhumane. It was cruel.
The other thing is that's very interesting is you'll see at the very back, you'll see an email, and this is from Russell Lafitte to Alec Murdaugh, and he says, Alec, can you get Jeannie, who is the CFO at the law firm, to recut the check as follows? And then you can see some amounts that are down below there that were cut that way. And they were cut that way so that it could break up that money, and then that money could be used to give the illusion of regular payments, to really to fuse out a huge amount, like $1.325 million, in order that slowly, over a period of time, Alec could convert that money, and again, in large measure, to pay back loans that had come to him from that prior conservatorship. And again, throughout that, there were a number of loans that were cut to Palmetto State Bank, and they were essentially cut in a manner that Russell Lafitte had Alec cut them that way, and then they were ultimately stolen all the way from February of 2013 through May of 2014. And so ultimately, it was a very involved scheme. Because it was such a large amount, they had to cut it up. They had to make it look like it was coming at different times from different sources. And that is how, over the course of that long period of time, Alec was able to steal that money through use of Palmetto State Bank.
We heard Creighton say that in the process of trying to keep his family going, Arthur was forced to take out loans. Loans that he had to pay high interest rates on. His situation grew sadder and more desperate while Alex and Russell plotted and planned and stole the major portion of his settlement money.
that I believe in accountability. I don't know that justice is served here, and I don't know that the punishment in this case is justified, and I don't want to be the odd man out. So I'll just keep it to myself and think it. Alec, you're a broken person. I don't think you're going to lie in bed at night and have people come to you. I don't think that those people matter. And I don't know when that happened, but clearly it happened where you matter more. And I feel bad for you as a result of that. I knew Paul and Maggie. I knew you. A lot of people thought they knew you. Clearly we didn't. I don't think you've always been this way, but somewhere along the way, you became broken. And you've justified it, and he's justified it every step of the way. And I stand up here, Your Honor, to simply correct the record. They didn't steal $1.325 million from my clients. The bank didn't help. The bank was complicit in every step of the way in enabling Alec Murdaugh to steal and pull this off. I stand up here merely to correct the record that my people have not been made whole. We are going to continue to seek accountability from the people that enabled him, that helped him, that were complicit in the thefts of their money. And so that's the reason I'm here today. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
The other story I'm working on right now is Russell Laffitte's latest appeal. In spite of this overwhelming evidence, he's claiming innocence in this, though a huge portion of Arthur's money went back to the bank to cover the loans to the Plyler sisters that Russell had given Alex.
He used this money also to pay back the conservatorship that I previously mentioned, that he was getting money loaned to him by Russell Laffitte for over $482,000.
It's through Russell's federal trial that we get a bigger glimpse at Arthur's story. This trial wasn't televised, so it's not a well-known story. I want to get it out there, and I plan to get it out there, but today I'm just going to read this excerpt of Arthur's testimony from Russell's trial. This is testimony heard in federal court on November 15th, 2022, long before Alex's story broke into mainstream media. He's being questioned by Miss Limehouse, another hero in this story. Mr. Badger, where are you from? I'm from Fairfax, South Carolina. Is that in Allendale County? Yes, it is. Have you lived in Allendale your whole life? Yes, I have. Tell the jury about your children. How many do you have? I have 7 kids. What are their ages? 20, well, my oldest is 25, my next to oldest is 23, and I have a 22-year-old son, and I have a 16-year-old daughter, I have a 13-year-old daughter, and I have an 11-year-old daughter. So the jury has heard about your wife Donna and an accident that took place back in January of 2011. Can you tell the jury what happened? Yes, I was on my way, we was on our way to my sister-in-law's house, and who was in the car with you? Who was in the car with me? Well, it was my wife, her sister, her cousin, my cousin. You want the names? No, it's fine. However you want to tell. It was just some family members. Were you driving? Yes, I was. Where was your wife Donna seated? She was in the rear passenger seat in the back. So what happened? Well, as we was on our way on our journey, I was coming up to some houses and seeing UPS was pulling out of the driveway. So I let the UPS came out of the driveway. And as we was heading down the street, the truck was going slow. So I turned my signal on, switched lanes to pass the UPS truck. And as I was switching lanes, passing the truck, he swerved into the lane and hit the side of my truck. He was trying to turn back into another driveway quick-like, but I was on the side of him, so he ran into me, and the truck flipped. So the UPS truck was turning left, and you were trying to pass. Yes, I was passing him. I was in the passing lane, and he still was turning as I was in the passing lane. So y'all collided at that point. Yes. So tell the jury what happened to your wife, Donna. She died on scene. She had a head trauma. Okay, and how about anyone else in the accident? Yes, the passenger beside me in the front seat. He died also. So, at the time we talked about your children, 6 of those children were Donna's children. Is that right? Yes. How old were they in January of 2011 when the accident took place? Well, the youngest one, she was about a year or 2 years old, and the oldest was about 13. So did you all decide to file a lawsuit related to the accident? Well, yes. Okay, and so who did you hire to represent you? Alex Murdaugh. So how did it come about that you knew to hire Alex Murdaugh? Well, my sister-in-law that was in the truck with me, her husband had some dealing with Alex before this case, so he told me that Alex would be a good person to go seek for help. So who all did Alex represent in the lawsuit? He represented everyone in the truck. Everybody, okay. So your wife, you testified, passed away shortly after the accident. Did Alex represent both your wife and you in the accident? Yes. In the lawsuit? So, were you originally appointed to be the personal representative of your wife's estate? Yes. And what did you understand that to mean? That means that whatever came out of the lawsuit would go to me. Okay, and so you were the one who was appointed by the probate court to represent the interests of your wife's estate? Yes. Okay, so did you understand that Alex would be filing a lawsuit both for you and your wife's estate? I did. I'm going to pull up Government's Exhibit 218A. I'm going to ask you about the defendant, Russell Lafitte. Did you know that Russell Lafitte was later appointed to be the personal representative of your wife's estate? No, I didn't. So you testified that the accident happened in January of 2011. So August the 30th of 2012, Russell Lafitte is appointed to be the personal representative of your wife Donna's estate. Do you remember signing documents resigning as the personal representative of the estate? No, I don't remember signing, and I wouldn't sign it over anyway. So why would you have signed documents that were put in front of you? Well, Alex, it was a lot of paper that I had to sign. And he'd tell me some of them I just had to sign it and keep it going, to make things go by faster. So there were documents that Alex put in front of you for your signature and you signed them. Yeah. So is it that you were trusting Alex as your attorney? Yeah. But you never understood that Russell was appointed to represent the estate as the personal representative rather than you. No, I didn't know that. So did you ever meet the defendant, Russell Lafitte? No, I never met him. But when I went into the bank, I seen him on occasions, though. Let's talk about when you went in the bank. Why did you go into the bank? Well, Alex would let me get some loan off the accident. Okay, so before you got any money, Alex would send you to the bank to get a loan. Yes. Do you remember who you met with at the bank when you got those loans? I'm not sure of the names that I met. But you would see Russell at the bank when you would go and get those loans. Yes. So let's talk about these loans here. Are those the loans that you're talking about getting from the bank? Yes. So what did you understand about the terms of those loans from Palmetto State Bank? Well, the loans that I was getting would come back out of the settlement once it went through. So you understood that you would eventually pay those back when you got your settlement money. Right. Did you know what the interest rate of those loans were? No, I didn't. Okay, so did you ever meet with Russell Lafitte as the personal representative of your wife's estate? No. Okay, Arthur, I see this is a document that has your signature dated 11/19/2012. Do you recognize that signature? Yes, I do. Do you recall signing this document? No, I don't. Okay, so I'm going to show you the first page again. So this is the first page that had your signature on the second page. Do you recall seeing this disbursement sheet at all? No. Okay, so this disbursement sheet outlines that you were to get $3.1 million, or excuse me, the recovery for the lawsuit was $3.1 million, attorney's fees $1.24 million, and then costs and expenses associated with it. I'm going to point you to a certain portion of the costs and expenses. $35,000, personal representative fee for Russell Lafitte. Did you know that Russell Lafitte was collecting $35,000 from your settlement? No, I didn't. Was Russell Lafitte your personal representative? No, he wasn't. So he should not have been getting $35,000 from your settlement funds. Is that right? That's right. Okay, there are some other amounts on here. There's a $15,000 fee to Corey Fleming. What was that about? Well, I got into some trouble, and I needed a criminal lawyer, and Alex told me that Corey was a good criminal lawyer. So Alex referred you to a criminal attorney, and you understood he would be paid out of your settlement money. Yes. Okay, how about this next? Henry and Ella Walker, a little over $15,000. What's that money about? It was I had an accident. I ran into their porch, and that's what Alex gave them to fix it. So you understood that the money was going to be coming out of your settlement. Yes. All right. And the last one here, Solomons and Lawton PC, $7,500. What's that for? I don't know. There's a couple of other smaller charges. Allendale County EMS, Allendale County Hospital, Hampton Regional Medical Center, and Palmetto Primary Care Physicians. Did you know what those expenses were for? Yes. What were those for? Those are for the ambulance and the hospital bills and the medical bills. Those were your medical expenses related to the accident? Right. That were coming out of the disbursement. All right, I want to highlight two additional amounts for you. The second one, $369,882.81. Is this what you understood you would be getting from the disbursement? Yes. So did you actually receive $369,882.81? Yes, I did. Let's talk about the amount above. $1,325,000. It indicates that it is to go to Palmetto State Bank, payment to fund a structure per client request. Did you ever get $1.325 million? No, I didn't. Did you have any idea that your recovery indicated that you were supposed to receive $1.325 million? No, I didn't. Good afternoon, Mr. Badger. Good afternoon. My name is Matt Austin. I just want to make sure I understand. You basically said you signed the documents he put in front of you, and I believe you testified something to the effect of you trusted Alex as your attorney? Yes, I did. Okay, and so basically, if I'm understanding it right, could we pull up Government's Exhibit 23, going to page 2, please? So, you're not denying that this is your signature, right? No, I'm not denying that. And so, am I understanding it correctly that basically Alex put this in front of you and didn't say what it was tied to, got you to sign it, and then he just matched it up with the first page? That ain't the first time he did that. He did it several times, just giving me papers to sign, and I signed. Yes. Can you describe what it was like when he would try to get you to sign documents like that? I mean, I go into the office, he'd call me and tell me he got some papers for me to sign. I come in, stack of papers, he started sliding it to me, and I signed them and signed them and signed them and stacked them back up again. This is just during like a normal weekday? You just go in, you're not working, sign the stuff and get out, right? Yeah. Trust him to be looking out for you and not have you signing anything else? Yes. And up until you found out about the $1.325 million, did you ever see any red flags or any reason not to trust Alex? Not to trust him? I mean, I wouldn't trust him again, no. Well, sure. I'm just going, what was in your mind back then? You never saw anything to make me feel that type of way? No. How would you describe your relationship with him then? What kind of guy was he as your lawyer? He was a good guy, you know. Outgoing? Yeah, I looked up to him because, he helped me out, He had a good reputation as a lawyer? Well, seemed like he was helping me out, but I guess... All right, could we go back to page 1? If we can zoom in, please, to the bottom half where it says Palmetto State Bank Payment Fund Structure. It's the third line up. If you can zoom in on the bottom 3 lines there. Okay, so this is $1.325 million that went missing. And is that your understanding? Yes. And there's the line that says Palmetto State Bank, payment to fund structure per client request. And I believe your testimony is that you never requested structure. No. And Russell Lafitte was not your PR in this. Is that correct? That's correct. It was your wife's? Yes. So it's kind of weird that he shows up on the disbursement sheet. Yeah. And did anybody ever tell you that Palmetto State Bank doesn't do structured settlements? No. Okay, and I think, is this document, do you remember if you signed it at the office or somewhere else? Which document? The one, I guess the fake signature on page 2. All the documents I signed in his office. Yeah, and so you went in there, Russell wasn't there? No. Okay, and you didn't know Russell was involved? No. And walk in, they have all these documents for you to sign. And do you know who drafted those documents? No, I didn't know what he did with them. What was your understanding of the documents that were put in front of you? They were done by Alex and his staff? Yeah, I thought it was something to help me. Uh-huh. So... Did he take advantage of you? Yes. Okay, if we can zoom out, please. All right, now just above the payment to fund structure line, go to the section that shows Allendale County EMS and others. Okay, you went through these with Miss Limehouse. And what is Palmetto Primary Care Physicians? Do you recognize that name? I don't know. Alex, I was going to a doctor that he sent me to. I don't know. Is this Dr. Vega? But I don't know if that's the firm name or not. Yeah, I will represent to you. I believe it is. But, so tell me about Dr. Vega. What did you go to him for? Really nothing, because I came out of the accident with no injury. But Alex just told me to go to see him. And I know it was a terrible event, and I'm not minimizing what you went through. But in terms of physical injuries, what was the point of going to Dr. Vega? There was no point. I wasn't injured. Alex said to go, so you trust your attorney, and you go. Yeah. Do you think you got $1,400 worth of medical services there? Could have. Okay, would you have anything done, like blood pressure, temperature, anything like that? When you go to the doctor, they check your weight and blood pressure and that. That was it, though? Yeah. You went there like 8 times? I can't remember exact amount of time, but I went there a few times. And do you remember Alex having to travel at all on your case? No? Okay, was it basically all the court proceedings, settlement discussions, mediation, stuff like that, to your knowledge, was in South Carolina? Yes. Okay, so there would be no reason for him to be flying on a private plane somewhere. Objection, Your Honor. I don't understand the relevance of this. Unless you can show the relevance, sustained. Okay, and let's pull up Government's Exhibit 30, please. And this is the table that Miss Limehouse just walked you through. And on this first page, we see all these payee line in the middle that says Palmetto State Bank. And that's Russell's bank, right? Yes. Then we go to page 2, and the top 3 are Palmetto State Bank, but the bottom 2 are Bank of America, right? Yes. And has anybody ever told you, or has the government explained to you, what's going on with those funds? Have you been reimbursed those funds? No, but... I'm sorry? No. Okay, so as I understand it, Russell signed up to be PR for your wife, is that right? Yes. But he wasn't yours. And then what we see, his PR fee for his work on your wife's case coming from your disbursement sheet. Is that how you understand it? Yes. Okay, and was it your understanding, I guess I'll ask this first. You said that you didn't know about him being put up. You didn't know that you were removed as PR, correct? No, I didn't. So you never had any conversations with Alex about being replaced as PR? No. What were you doing as PR? Did anything come up that you actually had to take care of? No. Okay, so was it your understanding that there was any benefit of having somebody besides you as PR for your wife? No. And you received your own settlement independent of your wife's case, is that right? Correct. Do you know if you could have done that still if you had remained PR in your wife's case? I don't understand what you're asking me. Say that again. If you had remained PR for your wife, did anybody ever tell you that that would affect your ability to recover in a wrongful death suit? No. Or survivorship suit? Okay, and so did you ever get any explanation of why Russell replaced you as PR from Alex? I never knew he replaced me, so no. I realized as soon as I asked that would be your answer. Sorry, but what about from PMPED, the law firm? Did they ever give you an explanation? No. Objection, Your Honor. Asked and answered. I don't think I asked that question. I'm just asking if he was informed. He answered. Go ahead. Continue. Okay, and did you ever have to put up a bond to serve as PR for your wife? No. Okay, and anybody ever mentioned that to you? No. Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. This one just really gets me every time. It just does. Now, keeping his story in mind, Creighton said this.
And those are just some of the expenditures that we see on this particular theft.
But I have a full list of where that money went. Before we look at that, let's look at the disbursement sheet for Arthur Badger's settlement. Alex recovers a total of $3,100,000. These settlements always sound amazing until they start getting divided. The biggest chunk goes to lawyers' fees at $1,240,000. Though the standard fee that most lawyers charge is 30%, Alex charged 40%, so already taken advantage of a high fee. Why wasn't Alex happy with that? That's a respectable fee, even after the firm gets their cut, but no, not enough for Alex. Next, we have something called individual expenses, and it notes that there's an attached listing to explain these, but I haven't so far been able to find that listing or what this amount is for. But these are generally costs that the firm incurs during the course of litigation. They can be court fees, filing fees, medical bills. They can be costs for expert witnessing or testing that needs to be done. Or as in the case of several of Alex's clients, they can be made up. Without the ledger, I can't really tell you what they are in this case, but they amount to $18,149.95. Common expense is very much like individual expenses, so I'm not sure why these are separated and what the determining factor is of what's a common expense or an individual expense. But here we have an additional $16,627.07 for common expenses. Now we have the held in trust pending additional expenses. This is a little low for this case, but this is money held back for a short period of time after the suit, just in case a medical bill or something like that might pop up that was somehow unpaid. It's held for a specified time and then given to the client once that time has passed. In this case, it's only $2,500, and I was surprised to find he does in fact get that $2,500 later. Next, we have the exorbitant fee to Russell Lafitte for serving as personal representative. This is crazy. Arthur Badger is alive, so he doesn't need a personal representative. Now, in terms of Donna's estate, she's dead, needs a personal representative, but Arthur willingly signed up for that. It was taken from him behind his back, also that Russell Lafitte was the one who had his hands on the money and could also charge $35,000. I'm going to read another excerpt from Russell's federal trial to explain this check. This is FBI Agent Womble being questioned also by Miss Limehouse. He's been testifying about his findings on the loans given by Russell to Alex from the Hannah Plyler account and how they were paid back. So what does this check show? So this check is a $35,000 check. It's from Palmetto State Bank. The memo line is Arthur Badger, personal representative fee. What was the significance to you about the payee line on the check for Arthur Badger's PR fees? Well, so Russell was the personal representative for the estate of Donna Badger, not for Arthur Badger. But the check's not made out to Russell Lafitte. The check is made out to Palmetto State Bank. It's not made out to the recipient. So, if we can pull up Government's Exhibit 119A. So what does Russell do with this $35,000 personal representative fee from Arthur Badger? He deposits it. And where does he deposit it? He deposits it into the conservator account for Hannah Plyler. So he turns that fee around and pays back some of the loans that he gave himself from Hannah Plyler's conservatorship account? That's correct. He uses the $35,000 to pay off the notes, the promissory notes that he had gotten. So you mentioned that Mr. Lafitte served as the personal representative for the estate of Donna Badger and not for Arthur Badger. Where did the $35,000 fee actually come from? So it didn't come from the estate of Donna Badger. Actually, it came from the settlement of Arthur Badger. So as I mentioned, not only did Alex strip Arthur's title of personal representative for his own wife's estate, he charges Arthur a personal representative estate fee for his own settlement. Even more bizarre is that no one noticed this in the firm or in court. Remember, a personal representative is someone whose job it is to manage a deceased person's estate. Arthur is not deceased. This is not his wife's estate. This is his settlement. There's no need for a personal representative. But again, no one catches it. It's signed off on, it's paid, and this check with Arthur Badger's name in the memo line is delivered to Russell, who deposits it directly to Hannah's account to pay off these loans. Are you irked yet? That brings our total costs up to $72,277.02, and these are all between Alex and Russell. Then we move on to Arthur's expenses, which are a mix of medical bills and small loans that Arthur took out to try to make ends meet before his settlement. I also don't have a breakdown of these, but the total of Arthur's loans is only $49,649.04. He took so much less. And let's remember, he's raising 6 kids alone and has another child of his own from before his marriage to Donna. Now we have these odd medical bills for Arthur that he testified to not knowing why he was being sent, since he was not injured. Those bills total $4,871.20. Next, we have a little list of other attorneys that I find so odd. What do you know? Corey Fleming made the cut for $15,000. It turns out that Arthur needed a lawyer for a different matter, and Alex referred him to Corey for it, and this is to pay those fees. There's another law firm listed, Solomons and Lawton, for $7,500, and no explanation. And Arthur has no idea what it's for. But in the little scraps of evidence, handwritten at the bottom of one of them, is a little note that Solomons and Lawton has not been paid yet. Was this his way of sliding yet another bill under the little bit of money that Arthur was actually going to receive? In addition to the $1,325,000 he already stole, he had to make Arthur pay for this bill too? Then we have a bill for Henry and Ella Walker. It turns out this is a construction company for damage that Arthur did to a porch. And that comes to $38,319 $1,000,000.93. Next, we have the big thievery, the $1,325,000 to structure per client request, it says. A structure that no one questioned, even though this is not the appropriate way to structure a settlement. This money instead goes straight to Palmetto State Bank and into Alex's thieving hands. This leaves the grieving Badger family with $369,882.81. If we separate this into a graph, it's shocking to see how little benefit was ever given to Arthur. Between these mysterious fees and legal fees, it's $1,350,596.95. Loans that had been taken out by Arthur, $49,649.04. Medical, $4,871.20. The amount Alex stole on top of his fees, $1,325,000. Arthur received $369,882.81. So this sums up the disbursement. Now let's see where the stolen money went. This is one of the most shocking pieces of evidence to me. Look at this mess. Aside from the shockingly bad math for Russell, a bank CEO, Alex, bold as you please, sends this email to Russell. I've heard, and you've probably heard, a lot about this email, but seeing it like this with the scribbles and the sticky note on it just makes it so real. Russell, the guy who's appealing his conviction right now, declaring his innocence, declaring that he was duped by Alex, that Russell takes this email, does the math, and does exactly what Alex asks. And that's to take the check that's written out for the amount that Alex intends to steal and recut it into smaller checks. Russell knows exactly what these checks are going for. He claims he didn't know, but that $35,000 personal representative fee that he took and paid the Plyler girls with says otherwise. We heard Creighton mention this email and this cutting the check differently in that clip earlier. Let's see how that played out. Next, we see Russell's email response. After he sorted the math, wrote the numbers down, he writes back to Alex telling him to ask Jeannie to cut these checks. Here's why this one just shocks me so much. They had no fears of getting caught, no fears of what a search of bank transactions might show up. This number, $388,687.50. We see that check get deposited on the bottom. Where does it go on the top? Straight to John Parker. Parker, as in the first P in PMPED, the name of the old law firm. And Parker, as in Parker Law, the name of the new firm. Alex would borrow money from John on occasion, and in this case, he took more than the total amount that Arthur received just to pay back this one loan to John. This is the cashier's check on top. Doesn't even try to fudge the numbers, hide the numbers somehow. Completely easy to trace exactly what this money went to. An email asking for that amount, an email sent back telling Jeannie to cut that amount, a check cut in that amount, a deposit made in that amount, and a cashier's check made in that amount given to John Parker and deposited again. They were not scared of anything. And what's more, no one notices and no one cares. Now remember Alex's email to Russell. He asked him whatever the amount I owe on Hannah loan. And remember Russell's little scribbles with all the scratches out because he can't do math? He came up with the amount of $151,726.05. We'll learn later this doesn't complete all the money that Alex owes to this account. This is one particular loan. He's going to come back for more to keep paying on this. But this number, 151, we see the next check cut to that exact amount. Endorsed, deposited. Right into Palmetto State Bank and applied to that loan. while Arthur is trying to sort out how he's going to make less than $400,000 stretch to cover himself and his 7 kids till they reach adulthood. But Alex isn't finished yet. He has the next line already filled. Remember, he said $75,000? What's he up to with that? We see on the bottom, the check's written out. On the memo line, Arthur Badger. But that doesn't stop the bank from accepting it. And look on top. This cashier's check goes to his daddy. $75,000. Now mind you, these checks are going out in February. Do you remember the pay structure at the law firm? They had a salary through the year, and then in December, they would get their big bonuses, all the fees from all the cases that they had won through the year. So December was raining money for these guys. But by February, he has to steal to pay his dad back? I've said it before. Why didn't his dad and his law partner wonder where he was coming up with this money? They knew his salary. They knew when he got paid. Why didn't they question? Why didn't he pay it off in December when he got his annual salary? He waited. He waited because he knew he was about to steal Arthur's money. Russell was in place as PR. Everything was lined up. So he left his money alone and waited to take Arthur's. Then the final amount, back to this email. Whatever's left over. This money gets deposited into the trust account where it continues to be distributed here and there at Alex's whims for the next almost 2 years. They also mishandled Donna's estate. For the sake of time, and also my need to do a little more research now that I found a lot of new things, I'm not going to get into the details of her estate, other than Alex supplied a different first page to his signature page to have Arthur sign away his right to her estate. So first, he took him away as personal representative without his knowledge, and now he has Arthur sign away. Nope, I don't want my wife's settlement. I don't need it. And the court doesn't question it. They say, oh, okay. A man with 6 kids, he doesn't want his wife's money. Well, that's okay. We don't need to talk to him about it. We don't need to ask him about it. We'll just take Alex's word for it that he signed this piece of paper. So he gets nothing. For the kids' part, because they're minors, it goes to probate court, gets put in structured settlements. But because Arthur's settlement was so little to raise such a large family on, all by himself, money got tight. Now, in the claim against Alex's funds, Mark Tinsley was very transparent about his clients. He shows that PMPED paid a check for the stolen funds, $1,360,000. But what about the half of Donna's estate that Alex and Russell claimed he signed away, bringing out that Arthur Badger should have received half of that recovery, and he did not waive his interest? Not only does the amount given by PMPED not consider punitive damages, Tinsley also mentions that because of the difference between physical personal injury settlements and the kinds of suits that are now available to Arthur is taxability. He wouldn't have been taxed on the actual original settlement, but any of these suit options that he has available to him now will be. And last, but most importantly, is what he did to Donna's children. He shows here that it's the lawyer's responsibility to preserve the funds for the children's benefit, to make sure that they will be properly cared for until they're of the age where they can collect their own settlements. This is usually done with a combination of conservatorship and buying tax-free annuities. This is how it had been done with the Plyler sisters just a few years previously. He alleges that Alex and Russell didn't have a plan about how to have access to the kids' funds, so they weren't concerned with it. They didn't risk putting Russell in charge of the money as he had been with the Plyler sisters. So instead of setting those children up in a protected way, they simply purchased annuities using all of the available funds. Nothing for them to live on until they got to the age to collect. Because of this, their settlements were illegally and wrongfully sold. So what happens? As his kids get a little older, they start selling their structured settlements for pennies on the dollar. And pretty soon that's all gone too. You can't put a price on what this family lost. Besides losing their mother, what could have and should have been used to help them better themselves by education, home purchases, or other real estate purchases, business ventures, investment, any number of things to help them get established as adults was robbed from them when they were once again fleeced by the legal system, by the judge who allowed a corrupt settlement company to come in and pay the tiniest fraction to buy their structured settlements away from them. There's no way to give them back what they could have had if they'd had that money while they were growing up, when they reached adulthood, to make career choices. They'll never have that chance again. It was stolen from them, first by Alex and Russell, then by the settlement company, and by the judges who let it all happen. This is why I believe that Arthur Badger is one, if not the only one, of the few who truly deserve this money from the last of Alex's funds. I feel like he and the Pinckney family lost the most by far, but Miss Pinckney didn't join this suit. And that really gets to me, of some of these people who joined this suit and Miss Pinckney didn't. It just blows my mind, the ones with their hands out. Still, and people like Miss Pinckney, they're walking away. When they say they forgive, they mean it. They're off making their own lives. They don't want to be stuck in this Alex Murdaugh situation anymore. But if I were referee, my choice would be this case, to receive most, if not all, of these funds. There are two other names from this crash that I was not aware of before. I'm going to add them to this podcast. They're Eva Marshall and Charles Haley that I mentioned at the beginning. Charles's son, Charles Haley Jr., was a 27-year-old passenger in the vehicle who was killed as well. In his claim, on behalf of his son, he states that there was a $12 million offer to cover the entire claim from all 6 people in the crash. But because Alex was so intent on carrying out the theft of Arthur's settlement and Donna's estate, he didn't fight for the full amount owed for the death of Charles Haley or the injuries of Eva Marshall. So he's asking for additional funds to cover not what was lost, but what was never given to him in the first place. And on that same theory, Eva, who was seriously injured in the crash, seeks an additional $1 million based on the same reasoning as the Charles Haley case. But instead of going to the Badgers and their passengers, this is where the rest of the settlement money went. I'll read aloud from more testimony while showing copies of the checks, deposits, and ledgers. I'm going to go through a couple of these with you, maybe not all of them. If you could go to Government's Exhibit 30 now. Mr. Badger, this is a summary of where that $1.325 million actually went. We already talked $388 to Johnny Parker and $151 to Hannah Plyler. I just want to highlight some of these for you. The next one is $101,369.49, and it shows that it was transferred into a money order for Hannah Plyler for a loan repayment, and $7,500 money order to Maggie Murdaugh. Any idea why they were getting your settlement money? No, I don't. The next two are additional $101,369.49, both to repay loans for Hannah Plyler. Any idea why Hannah Plyler was getting those settlement funds from you? No. Next one is $50,684.75, turned into a wire to Southern Crane and valued at $49,500 and $10,184.75 in cash back. Any idea why your settlement proceeds were spent that way? No, I don't. Next one, $50,684 $1,000,000.75 deposited into Alex Murdaugh's personal bank. Do you know why your lawyer, who had already taken over $1 million in fees, was collecting more than $50,000 from your settlement proceeds? No. Next one, $50,684.75 went to a $34,000 wire to 4M Iron, an $8,200 money order to E. Smith for Jeep purchase. Did you ever get a Jeep from your settlement proceeds? No. Next page, please. Just these last couple, Mr. Badger, $33,789.83, $29,000 Honey Creek Motor. Again, any cars that you got from these settlement proceeds? No. $4,789.03 in cash back. Did you get any cash from the $1.325 million? No, I didn't. Another $33,789.83 deposited into Alex's bank account at Palmetto State Bank. Any idea why Alex would be taking more than $33,000 from your settlement funds? No, I don't. The next one, another $33,789.83 for repaying a loan to Hannah Plyler. Again, do you know Hannah Plyler? No, I don't. Do you know why she would be getting your settlement proceeds? No, I don't. All right, and these last two, Mr. Badger, are a little over $150,000 that were deposited into Alex's Bank of America account. Any idea why Alex was taking more money over and above the fees he took from your settlement? No, I don't. So we talked about what happened to your money. Let's talk about your understanding of what was happening to the money the children were receiving as the beneficiaries of your wife's estate. What happened with their settlement? Well, they had structured settlement until, when they get 18, they would be able to cash it in for themselves. But, the younger ones, we were going through some hard times. And I went and talked to the judge, and the judge let me cash some of the structures in. Okay, so all of your children's settlements were set up as annuities they would get when they turned 18. Is that right? Yes. So you testified that at the time of the accident, your children ranged in ages from 1, 3 to 13 to 15. Between the accident and the settlement, is that right? Yes. So was there any money that was negotiated for y'all to get to help take care of the children until they turned 18 and would get access to those annuities? No. So y'all had to wait to get settlement funds until the children each turned 18? Yes. So what happened with some of your children's annuities? You talked about going to a judge. Explain that for the jury. Well, I went in and spoke with the judge and told him my kids was a minor and asked him was there any way that I could purchase some of their structured settlement to get some cash? So you decided to sell your children's annuities to get some money? Yes. So if you had gotten $1.325 million as you were supposed to, would you have had to sell your children's annuities? No, I wouldn't. Truly despicable. There are still some names yet to consider on this list of claimants, and I'm working on that for you, along with coverage of Russell Lafitte's appeal. Till then, this is Cassidy O'Connell saying stay well and stay tuned.